Good morning. Welcome to First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist here in Newburyport, Massachusetts. And may I say, it is so wonderful to see the back door open. Maybe spring is coming now, pretty soon. So, or the front door, as it were. It's wonderful to be here together. Take a breath. It's been quite a week here in our congregation and our church family. And it all comes together today as we are here with tender hearts and as we reflect on what has been and who we have been and then are together. And as we look ahead, it's all here today. So welcome. We're happy that you are here. We come together at FRS online and in person each week, committed to love, peace, and justice. And our mission and our invitation to all of you is come as you are. Come as you are with everything that's inside of you today. And journey together. We journey together in love. And we act with courage. And we transform our world. If you're with us for the first time, welcome. And if you would like a large print order of service or a large print hymnal, just ask one of the ushers and they will be happy to help you. If you're with us online, you can find an order of service on the link just beneath the live stream. There's a lot going on here at FRS. Please take a moment to look through your order of service for all the things that are coming up. a couple of things in particular to mention this morning. After our service today, you're invited to join us downstairs for an ice cream social, and then to come back upstairs at noon to join Reverend Rebecca and members of the parish board as they'll be talking about changes in staff and where we're headed in the coming months with all the shifts that are happening here at FRS. So we hope you'll join us for that. Also, note that next week there's a special congregational meeting, Sunday, March the 10th. It's to vote on replacing the roof above our heads. That's a really important thing. It's important that you are here, that we take care of that. So we're still a little short of the 20% quorum that is needed for that meeting next Sunday. You can register online. There are instructions for that in the order of service or in this week's upcoming steeple. Please plan to join us then. I think I forgot to say who I am. I'm Alan Seal, and it's wonderful to be here with you as your worship associate today. So again, take a deep breath. And welcome once again. It's good to be together.
It is indeed good to be together. In fact, if we didn't have things we had to do this morning, I would just come on down and sit with you all. Because that's what it's about. That's what matters. What matters is that we are here together, that we come together as a faith community to celebrate in the good times, to hold one another in the difficult times, to be together. So I invite you, and I mean this in all sincerity. Sorry, I just keep seeing people that have, hi Tom. David Livingstone, our ministerial intern, and his family have come to join us today from Brookline, Massachusetts, unexpectedly. I mean this in all sincerity. There's a lot coming in this service, and I invite you to listen to what moves you and to look out the windows and put my voice aside if what you need to do is simply be, because that's what matters. Our call to worship this morning are the words of Black Elk, holy man of the Lakota people, the sacred hoop. Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round beneath me was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw, for I was seeing in the sacred manner the shape of all things of the Spirit, and the shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as the daylight and the starlight. And in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. You are faithfully called to worship. We are doing just a couple of things different in this morning's service, and one of them is we're going to have our children come forward now. Children and youth, if you can come forward now with Mara. Come on up. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, you can come up here. I'll see you better. Hi. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on up. There is room for everyone, including a wolf. Is that a wolf? We have a wolf with us as well, which is really wonderful. I'm so glad to see all of you. Yeah, the wolf is making sounds. So if you need medicine, just come join me and look at these beautiful faces, all of who I love so much. It's really good to see you. I hear you're going to do something pretty fun and exciting downstairs when you go. And yes, and you're going to be bringing it back upstairs for us to see later in the service, which is really exciting. Yes, I see that wolf. May I hold the wolf for a moment? Thank you. Okay. So I asked you to come forward early in the service because I had something I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, just you all. I wonder if you know Reverend Helen. Does some of you know who she is? Can I give you this picture? And the red across her nose is my home printer. That's not normally there. You want to see that? Do you know her? Have you seen her? You can pass it around. Yeah. So, Reverend Helen was our affiliate or community minister, which means that she was a volunteer. She was an interfaith minister who was also a member here, who volunteered her time and gave all kinds of support to us. She also was a teacher. She loved children. She loved children so, so much. She dedicated her life, actually, to kids and children, and especially making sure that children got what they needed at school. That if they had different needs, or they learned differently, or they needed some kind of a particular way of understanding what was happening, that the other teachers understood that, and that those children got exactly what they needed, and she gave decades of her life to doing that work. So there was a whole lot more to her than just what happened here, which was also a whole lot that happened here. And I don't know if you've heard, but sadly and surprisingly, Reverend Helen died last week. And it really, it's heavy on a lot of our hearts. Even though we know that death is part of life and it happens, it's always hard and sad. It's particularly difficult when it happens in a way that is confusing, that is in some way not only unexpected, but I'd call tragic, meaning that it really makes no sense, and it was so hard. So you might know that your parents might have been talking about this or feeling things about this, and whatever they're feeling, I just want you to know it's okay. It's okay. Grief sometimes looks like anger, sometimes looks like tears, sometimes looks like quiet, sometimes it looks like they're withdrawing, sometimes they might need extra hugs, and you might have those same feelings too, and all of those feelings are okay. We can't fix each other's feelings, but we can be there for each other. We can just show up and make space. So I want you to know that we love you very, very much. And if you have any questions or you need to talk about this, you can talk to Mara, you can talk to me, and we have other people you can talk to also. Because this is your church home, and you matter to us. So at this time, you're going to go downstairs and I think have your own memories of Reverend Helen as well as doing some fun artwork. Let's sing our children now to Young Church, Go Now in Peace, number 413, and the wolf. So I received the call. You know, in your life when you get the call, we've all had calls like that. I was actually out walking Charlotte around the block and came back. It was about 9 o'clock, maybe a little before Wednesday night, and came back to see a message on my voicemail cell phone, and I thought, that's not usually a good sign at that time of night for a minister. And I did what I always do, which is I prayed, "Dear God, give me the strength and the compassion to accept whatever is going to come when I return this phone call." So it was Donna Holliday who had called me, and she said in her message, "Do you know what's going on? God, Reverend Rebecca, do you know what's happened? Call me." So what about all of you? Where were you maybe Wednesday night? I know a lot of people were going to the mayor's state of the city, actually saw what happened, didn't know who the person was, but knew it was not good. The number of people who have reached out to me and said, "When I saw the scene, I thought, oh God, what if it's someone we know?" Not that it wouldn't be equally tragic for anyone. That's what I was trying to explain to our children in a way that is hard to put into words that are safe, which is this was not only the loss of a beloved member and affiliate minister here at our church, loved by so many people, far beyond FRS, but it was tragic, it was violent, it was awful, it was unimaginable. So I just want to say that when I called Donna back and told her later, Thursday night when she was here for the vigil, I said, "You've always been a friend to me. From the moment I came here and you spoke at my installation and welcomed me to this city, and we've gone through a lot together. But that night, when she's the one who called, I knew what a friend really does." Others were afraid to call. When I preached about love last week and said love goes into pain, that's what I mean. So, wherever you were, however you heard or learned about this, whether it was that night, on the news, on Facebook, through the letter I sent, perhaps from friends, it is and was the unimaginable until it happened. And then it's still the unimaginable, but it's more about the, what do I do with this? How do we handle this? As I said, we've all probably had sad and difficult, unimaginable things happen in our life. Some perhaps more traumatic than others, but still. The things we didn't know that we were actually spending our lives preparing for. And the reason I say we were spending our lives preparing for these things is because when people ask me what do spiritual practices really mean? I can be spiritual by myself. I can walk the beach. You know, I take a hike. Well, I do too. But we need one another. We need each other. And so spiritual practices, being part of a community, giving and receiving and loving and knowing people, we do all of that for the moments in our life when we need to call on that strength. When I woke up Thursday morning, after only a couple of hours of sleep, having spent time with the police and the emergency room and finding Matthew, I woke up And I share this not because it's about me, but because I'm offering you to consider in your own life, what do you turn to? And sadly and truthfully, there will be more times to do this. There will be other times. So you can start now. So I woke up after a couple of hours of sleep on Thursday morning, and Bart, my husband, was traveling, and so I was there and by myself with my dog. And I couldn't believe, even though I preached these things, what was running through my head. And they were all the things I have spent decades dedicating myself to. For example, approaches we learn in the basements of churches in 12-step meetings. I kept hearing, first things first. First things first. So I made a list of my priorities for that day. Not a to-do list. That went out the window. That was way too long anyway. I'm saying I identify my priorities. First things first. Okay, my first priority is to myself. Because if I'm not as whole and well as I can be, I am of no service to anyone else. My second priority is to Matthew. Because this is the person that this happened to and his family. Then my third priority is to all of you, because you are my people. Then my fourth priority was to the community, because it happened within the larger community. And the rest could wait for another day. I also wrote an affirmation that articulated how I wanted to be that day. Not what I wanted to do, how I wanted to be. And I wrote, and I said this all day long. I am calm, I am present, I am embodied and connected to myself, my God, and other people. Then I sent a text to a number of very, very good friends who didn't know Reverend Helen, who don't live here, but have known me for a long time. And I said, I need you. Just think about us all today. Then I put on my clothes and went into the day. We are in community, a religious community, for times like this. As I said, we do our spiritual practices, we care for our bodies and our minds for times like this. We know what brings us joy for times like this. Life is beautiful, my friends, and I can promise you that Reverend Helen would not want us to think anything different than that. I've turned to her, by the way, many times over the last few days because I loved her and knew her well. She's given me guidance, sometimes with a little bit of a kick in the pants, other times with a loving, warm welcome. So at this time, I just invite us to sit for a minute together in silence, in your thoughts, in your contemplation, in your affirmation, in your feelings, in your prayer, knowing that we are in this together. Now I invite all of us to think, or even speak aloud anything that you need to be heard in a company of witnesses. We actually don't need to hear the exact words. We just need the sound. You may speak the name of another person that you love who has died. It may be something about Reverend Helen. You can say it in your heart, you can whisper, or you can speak. But let us share now in the community of witness and love. We are holding 2 listening and healing circles. One is on Zoom this afternoon at 3. The other is Wednesday at 6 p.m. here in the church. There are copies of information about that in the vestibule, or there was an email sent yesterday. Please reach out. Reach out. Reach out to people you know and love. Reach out to me. I have any number of other ministers in other congregations who have said, I'll be there. There are many people who are willing to listen. And now let us give each other what we really need. Let's sing together hymn number 1002. And we can do it seated, actually. Comfort me, and we'll be singing verses 1, 2, and 4.
I think I'm inviting the rest of the board who are here to come up to help me light the chalice on this difficult but also important Sunday. So we're gathered here and also online today And there are board members online who are doing this chalice lighting together. So, please join me in the words of the chalice lighting. We gather this hour as a people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Each week, we also light 2 candles of peace, representing 2 places on earth that need peace. After each candle is lit, I will invite you to respond by saying peace in 3 languages: peace, salam, shalom. I'm actually going to do 3, so you can light one of those. Our first candle this morning is lit for the city of Newburyport. For all of the staff members for the city, for our mayor, for all of the people who live and love and work here. For all of our community who has come together in beautiful ways, who also are dealing with this tragedy. I light this candle as a candle of gratitude for the deepening respect and friendships that I am realizing are here. For our mayor, Sean Reardon, who has been amazing, for all the staff, for the police department, for people I don't even know who are coming and offering care. To this community, we respond, peace, salam, shalom. Our second candle this morning is lit for countries who recognized March 1st as Zero Discrimination Day. This is part of the global effort to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. 78 million people have become infected with HIV, and 35 million have died from AIDS-related illnesses since 1989. Discrimination against women, key populations, and other marginalized communities makes it difficult for them to access resources for HIV prevention, testing, treatment, and care. We believe that access to quality health care is a human right, which all people deserve. To this we respond, peace, salam, shalom. And our second candle this morning is lit in honor of all of the Unitarian Universalist congregations around this country who are also lighting candles this morning, saying prayers for our community, for Newburyport, for this church, for Reverend Helen. These are all ministers who have taken it upon themselves to reach out to me, to tell me they're doing this. To all of them who are sending love, I ask us to recognize and realize that we are deeply interconnected, not only with each other or in this community, but with our Unitarian Universalist faith. So the following congregations are also lighting candles. In Wellesley Hills, Massachusetts, Danvers and Kingston, Massachusetts, Montpelier, Vermont, Needham and Watertown, Massachusetts, Reading, Massachusetts, Peoria, Illinois, White Plains, New York, Huntington, Virginia, Burlington, Vermont, Lutherville, Maryland, Provincetown, Massachusetts, Houston, Texas, Richmond, Virginia, Quincy and Gloucester, Massachusetts, New York City, Amherst, New Hampshire, Franklin, Massachusetts, New London, Connecticut, Savannah, Georgia, Kennebunk, Maine, Stamford, Connecticut, Keene, New Hampshire, Sherborne, Massachusetts, Hingham, Massachusetts, Rancho Mirage, and Pasadena, California, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, Groton, Massachusetts, and our own Unitarian Universalist Association president, who is preaching this morning at First Parish in Concord, Massachusetts. In honor and in gratitude for all of the congregations who share in our fellowship and our values and in our work for justice and love, care for the earth, we are grateful, and to this we respond. Peace, salam, shalom. Please rise in body or spirit, and let's join our voices in our affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Please be seated.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Edward Speck, and I was asked to give the giving testimonial today. It is very difficult for me to say what FRSUU means to me and to my family, but that is the exercise, and somehow I agreed to do it. I am from across the river in Amesbury. Newburyport, to me, growing up, I experienced just as Merrimack Street between Spofford and State, the blurred imagery framed by the minivan window on our way to church every Sunday. Church was a place of slightly elevated dress, elevated architecture, elevated thought. It was a weekly dress-up. Adults smiled at me, treated me kindly, regardless of how many cookies I had just stolen off the table at coffee hour in the parish hall. It was a place where families were friends with families, where my friends' parents knew my parents, the Heenahans, the Puringtons, the Shivicks, the Mercers, our Sunday people. I learned how to read music and to sing in the youth choir from Lynn Paparella. I learned about puberty and all that attends it in what is now called the program, which is now called OWL. And from a youth group sleepover in the parish hall, I learned that a couple of Jolt Colas from Richdale's could indeed enable you to stay up all night long. But repentance is sure to follow. Beyond that, it was difficult for me to describe, growing up, what I learned here at FRSUU. When there is no dogma, when there is no central church, no set of prescribed answers, how do you explain your church to others, particularly your church-skeptical punk rock friends? It was easier to say what we were not, to define us in negative terms, as in, we don't believe in the divinity of Christ. To define us in positive terms, I would tell my friends, we drink coffee, we ask questions, we take the summers off. That seemed to satisfy them. And so when I graduated from Young Church, I took an extended summer break of about 2 decades. I was old enough then to stay home, to sleep in, to listen to Nirvana while my parents and my younger brother made their trip over to Newburyport, at least the part of it between Merrimack Street between Spofford and State. And no one remonstrated. No one made me feel guilty for only coming to church on Easter and at candlelight, for being a holiday Unitarian. I, in the forgivable narcissism of the teen years, did feel some guilt, as if my church needed me, and not the other way around. But my church, if it said anything at all, said, "Don't worry, Teddy. Enjoy your summer. I'll be here when you need me." And then, one day, a long time later, I did need my church. When the answers and assumptions I'd been operating under failed me, when my mistakes humbled me, when the world disappointed me, when the greed and hatred and xenophobia and racism in my country when I yelled at my children in the back seat and then cried because I just yelled at my children in the back seat and had to pull over on Merrimack Street between Spofford and State because I was too overwhelmed to drive, I came back to church. And I left my extraordinary children downstairs with Mara. And I came upstairs with my wonderful wife, Kaylin, and I sat and I listened to Reverend Rebecca. And Sunday by Sunday, I have seen or remembered what it is that I learned growing up here in FRSUU: to value questions above answers, democratic conversations above authoritative dictate, diversity over homogeneity, wonder over surety. And I'm here this morning not only because I want my children to learn these values as I did, but because I need to sit with these values weekly with you. And to believe that our world can be healed. To love and to feel love. The love that goes into pain. Last week, while Reverend Rebecca was speaking so beautifully about love, I experienced a kind of reverie, drifting in the joy and wonder resulting from her exercise in expressing the ineffable, her poetry. Love, the goddess that holds us together, love, the doctrine of this church, is ultimately ineffable. And it is understandably difficult, therefore, to explain, particularly to your church-skeptical, formerly punk rock friends, who we are as a congregation and what we do. Perhaps it is easier to define every faith in negative terms, like we are those who do not eat fish on Fridays, or only fish. Sorry, Mom. Or we are those who do not work on Saturdays, or we are those who do not believe in the divinity of Christ. But negative terms, by definition, are terms of exclusion, defining each as separate and against all others. And last week, in my reverie in this sacred space with you all, I felt so deeply our dedication to inclusion and our definition as inclusive, not holding apart, but inviting in. And the people in this room did a whole lot of work 2 years ago in defining, in positive terms, our values, our mission, and our ends. So, in positive terms, we are those who strive to come as we are and invite others to do the same, to journey together in love, to act with courage, and to transform our world. And that brave inclusivity is what FRS meant to me growing up, what it means to my family now, though I may still append to my friends that we love coffee and questions, and we take the summer off sometimes. Thank you for being here. I need you.
Thank you so much, Teddy. It was already a big ask and a beautiful yes, and then everything happened between last Sunday and today. And never once did Teddy email me and say, I think I'd rather wait till another week. So we need you too. Each week we lift up the joys and the sorrows of our beloved faith community. In addition to all that has already been shared, Nancy Kidd, our pastoral care associate, will light the candles as I read what has been shared with me in advance and also in the journal this morning. We light a candle of sorrow and love and blessed memory as Maureen Adams and Lee McLaughlin share the sad news of their dear friend of over 25 years, Barbara Amaralt, who passed away Wednesday night. They write that despite living with Alzheimer's for the past few years, she never lost the essence of who she was. She was a dedicated nurse for 40 years, a loving and caring friend, a great storyteller, and always full of wonder. We are truly grateful for her friendship. The love we shared with Barb will remain forever in our hearts. We also light a candle of joy and celebration in recognition and celebration of Reverend Jane Tuohy's birthday this week. She is celebrating with her son, Louis, in California, and we all wish you a very happy birthday, Reverend Jane. This is a nice surprise. So we light a candle of joy, celebrating the 5th year of Reverend Rebecca's installation. Today, 5 years ago today. When you all gave me this, by the way. Though she started in August of 2018, it was today, 5 years ago, that we celebrated our shared covenant, the promises that we made to one another, the shared ministry that we've been living with ever since. I'll always remember my son that day. He really, as a UU, he's in his 20-year summer break from UUism. He's only 25, but around like 18, he said, I'm going on summer vacation. But he's still UU for parents, I need you to know that. When he looked at colleges, I won't make that another sermon, but I watched how he decided where he went. He needed to go to a place that was inclusive, though he wouldn't have used that word. And he went to a lot of colleges, he's a very smart young man, that were not. And he simply said to me, I think I'm going to go here. If I had said, that's because you were raised UU, I probably wouldn't have done it. So don't say that, just say, that's a good decision. But he, at the end of our installation, we left, and he looked at me and he said, you know, Mom, it's kind of like a marriage that just happened. And I said, yes, my dear son, it is. So let's join together now in a moment of shared prayer and contemplation and meditation. Spirit of love, of eternal life, Spirit of those who belong with us and are in us always, regardless of where they are, regardless of if they still live on this earth or remain forever in our hearts and our mannerisms and our thoughts and our expressions. Spirit of the beautiful, beautiful earth and her flowers, her resiliency and her pain, the things she is enduring and she is asking us to respond to and correct. Spirit of hope, spirit of grief, spirit of all that is holy. May we put down our fears, put down any search for perfection or accolades or degrees or awards, and may we open ourselves now, today, and always to what matters the most: the love of those in our lives, the love of those who have come before, and for those who are yet to be. May we always know that those are the things that are to guide our days, so that when our final day comes, we may rest in peace. Amen.
Spring,
Wow, thank you. Our reading this morning is a poem called Preparing for a Hike by our very own John Mercer. And I have to say, John, that I met this poem the first time a couple of years ago. Coming back to it now, I can't imagine any clearer instructions for this hike of life. So thank you for this gift. So from John. Consider the season. In the spring, pack sandals for water crossings. In the fall, a space blanket for the unplanned night out. Consider the route. Imagine your way through the good route and also the other route, the less preferred, the one you'll need when the first proves impassable. Consider what to carry in your head. Don't listen to sappy music before setting off. The sappier the music, the more you'll resent your own brain. Don't worry about what to do with your head. Your head won't work after some hours on the trail. Consider what you'll pass through. Know your trees, your ferns, your mushrooms. Know your wildflowers, both the garish and the shy. Know the birds by their calls. And distinguish the chickadee from the white-throated sparrow, and mind the ovenbird, and take joy in the winter wren, your most tireless companion. And be ready with the first step to give up control. Let the journey unfold on its own, as it most certainly will. Let its accidents become opportunities. Let its challenges become triumphs. Let it enter your heart and inhabit you. Let it enter your heart and inhabit you. Let it sanctify you. Let you and the journey and the nature be one, as you most certainly are.
So we're going to run a little longer today as we created space for Reverend Helen. And her words to you are, come now, give her a break. We needed to do what we need to do because we don't know what will come on the journey. People loved my giving or a pledge sermon last year so much that, and I'm serious, that's not sarcastic, that many of you were saying to me, oh, just plug and play. Once I looked that up, because I'm getting old, I realized that means just do it again. I debated for a moment, but I knew, as ministers do, that it wouldn't work this year. Maybe next year. Though I do know that you love to say this, and I think it's why you loved the sermon. So let's just hear you say it. This is our church. Come on. This is our church. Yes. The theme of our campaign this year is strengthening sacred connections in our interconnected world. And the goal is $575,000. Thinking about this lets us remember that this campaign, because it goes from July 1st of 2024 until June 30th of 2025, will actually fund the first half of our 300th year anniversary. 300 years. It will fund those activities as well as many other exciting initiatives and building preservation needs, like a roof, as my daughter said to me the other night, lending her love and care to her mom. I was like, whoa, 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 crying about all kinds of stuff, and then I said, and then we have to put a new roof on. And she said, what? And I said, yeah, can you believe it? She's like, wow. But we do. We need a new roof. It's also going to help us ensure that we're able to hire our assistant minister. Other open staff positions, again, I hope that if you're interested or have questions, you come back here after some ice cream at noon in the sanctuary here, and you can hear all about it or ask your questions as well. I absolutely need to thank our campaign leadership team this year, who's been meeting since November to try to make this the most fun, inclusive, joyful, and easy campaign possible. So if you will just join me after I read their names in thanking our co-chairs Sue Creed and Ray Wilson, and members of the team including Tina Bennick, Bart Bracken, Vern Ellis, Lark Madden, John Mercer, Susan Ricker, Forrest Speck, Jim Supple, and staff members Diane Carroll, Cynthia Walsh, and myself. Can we just say thank you to all those people? These folks are being joined by 42 stewards, 42 of your members and friends. So when you receive the call or the email saying, would you like to have tea or coffee, or were you able to consider a pledge this year, please say yes. And above all, please answer their email. It takes bravery to be the people who say, yes, we'll reach out to those 5, 6, or 7 people to get to know them better. We want this campaign and its results to strengthen our sacred connections, and it's so needed at this time in the world as we work to uphold democracy. Take a breath on that one. Offer spiritual worship services, community gatherings, programming, have wonderful and diverse music, care for our children and youth. I also need to thank our staff team, those who are departing and those who are remaining. Diane Carroll, Mara Flynn, Julie Parker Amory, Justin Murphy Mancini, Donnie Rogers, Cynthia Walsh, and our volunteer affiliate ministers, Reverend Stan Barrett and Jane Toohey. Can we thank them as well? When I think about our theme, strengthening sacred connections in our interconnected world, I think about reciprocity. The Society for U.S. Intellectual History defines reciprocity as this: it is an alchemy of reciprocal gifting. In other words, you receive a gift, you're grateful, and you give a gift, and that creates a bond. They go on to say that Robin Wall Kimmerer, who we have studied quite a bit and will continue to, gives this, and I'm quoting them, gives this a more systems science description. Reciprocity is when new arrangements are created, old ones are transformed by a joining of obligate symbiosis. Those are big words. A healthy spiritual community or city or family or any relationship embodies reciprocity. We give to one another and we receive from one another. We don't keep tally cards. We don't count. We don't think about, wait, who did this last? Have I given more than them? Because we know that life is seasons of life. There are times we need to receive much more, and there are times when we're able to give in all of those ways. We receive even as we give. Healthy and vibrant religious organizations, sadly, are on the fast decline in our country. The statistics are sobering, and I don't need to share them with you. Many of you send them to me regularly. Because you care. Because we know what a healthy spiritual community can be. And it matters to us when we see fewer and fewer people participating. Fortunately, it isn't true here, and that is because of you. It's because of us. You may or may not know that FRS is the 23rd largest Unitarian Universalist congregation in our country, and the second largest in New England. It's not to boast that I'm saying that, but to realize that what we are doing here matters. It matters for all of us and for the larger community, not only Newburyport, but all the surrounding towns and even into New Hampshire and Maine, the state of Massachusetts. It also matters for our Unitarian Universalist faith. I can't imagine a time more than now that our country and world needs healthy examples of spiritual communities who care for each other and the world. This fall, we held congregational insight workshops with 125 people participating that included parents in young church, staff, young adults, middle schoolers. The people who participated were well represented across the length of membership here, all the way from people who were not yet members to those who have been here for decades or even generations. All together, and this should not surprise you, you all generated 757 ideas. Yes, you did, because that's what you use too. We think we have ideas. But when we actually looked at them, and I need to thank Kathy Deslis and Rebecca and Andy Lobb, who worked tirelessly on the analysis of all of those ideas, we realized that 52% of those ideas had to do with these things: parish hall and what's going to happen, communications and planning, worship, and social justice and inclusion. When we add things like program features, environmental impact activities, and adult and youth programming, when we add those in, that represents 82% of the ideas. So though we may have slightly different expressions or particularities, there's actually a lot of common shared values and importance. As I read all of this data and the amazing analysis that was done, there were several key takeaways that I took away. I'll share them now and then invite you to come again on April 7th, when that's going to be the whole service and conversations afterwards. But were the key takeaways. And Rebecca validated this I did it from reading it and feeling it, and she said, and I checked you by the numbers, and you're right. So, first, we want better member engagement. That's with newer and older members and intergenerationally. We want to appeal to the unchurched, to get to know them, draw them in, change up the worship, have more rituals, more sacred time, and also more social justice. But mostly, change it some, not always. Diversify the music, include kids more in worship and all areas of church life, and support their families and caregivers. Engage with other churches, and finally, and top, use Parish Hall for the community at large, as well as our uses and needs, which speaks volumes to me. One of the many next steps will be asking people in the community, leaders and others, to come and share with us what they understand the community needs as far as space and resources. Last year, I talked about this being our church, and I want to extend that this year. It is our church. The question, though, is, who is our? Is it you and me? Those who are here and those who are not? Is it for young or old? Members of the LGBTQ community? Spiritual seekers? Environmental activists? Is it for people who are introverted and like to dress up? Or those who love a good party and come in ripped jeans? My friends, all of the above. We know that, and we're pretty good at it. We're not perfect, but we're pretty good. There are other ways to understand, however, how this is our church, and that's what I want to focus on for just a minute. Who that our is. I have two stories to share with you that exemplify this, and there are many, many others I could share. When I first came here, you told me you wanted a community minister. And what I learned quickly is you did not just want a community minister to look good. You wanted a minister who was part of the community because we are part of the community. As we started on our journey, our hike, as John Mercer wrote so eloquently, I wondered then in 2018 where we might be going, what we might grow into together. Growth is about so much more than numbers. It's about depth and breadth. FRS is so much more than a place people go to worship or learn. We are a beacon of liberal religious religion and a moral compass. And our neighbors and our area organizations confirm that. And there is something so meaningful when we show up places and when we are all part of this community. We hold memorial services for community members, many of whom have lived and worked here for decades, though they may never have been members of this church. Belonging here and having this be someone's church is so much more than the status of membership or when a person last pledged, though those are important too, of course. But here are the two stories. One day, after no more than 2 months at my arrival, so we were talking about September 2018, a gentleman called me to schedule an appointment. He was sick, and he was looking for pastoral care. On the day of our appointment, he walked into my office. I can feel it and see it like it was this morning. He sat down, and I could tell he was ill. And he shared about his cancer diagnosis, how surprising it was for his family and how hard it was for them all to believe. How his adult children were stepping up and ensuring that all of his needs were being met, celebrating whatever remaining time they had together. He then shared how FRS had always been his church. He talked about his memorial service, what he wanted, how he couldn't imagine it being anywhere but here. He then shared his life story with me because he wanted me to know him before I officiated his service. We had a warm and a heart-rendering conversation that lasted a couple of hours. After he left, I went into our then membership coordinator's office, Diane Young, and I said to her, "Can you just look up this person's name because I wonder how long he's been a member here. It's obviously he has a deep connection." She goes, that name isn't familiar. And she looked it up and she said, "He's never been a member here." This was his church. And I tell you from his stories and his face and the feelings, this is his church. And we held a beautiful, beautiful service, both here and at a local graveyard. Belonging is a matter of the heart as much as anything else. When a person says this is their church, I believe them. My second story is from Reverend Jane Toohey, and I share this with her permission. Reverend Jane, our affiliate ministers as volunteers have other work they're doing in their lives. She is a chaplain at Anna Jake's Hospital. One day, not too very long ago, as she was making her rounds, visiting people who were sick or dying, a nurse came up to her and asked her if she would be willing to say a prayer with a patient who was asking for a chaplain. Reverend Jane replied, "Of course, yes." As she went to the other floor and approached that room, another nurse nearby alerted her that this patient was constrained to their bed. She didn't want her to be surprised. Reverend Jane entered the hospital room to find 2 police officers guarding the door. She began to speak to the man in the bed, his arms shackled to the bed. And he explained to her that he hadn't seen his wife or children for years, and he wasn't sure he would see them again before he died. He was returning to prison soon. He asked her if she would pray with him. Reverend Jane turned to the police officers and said, "Officers, we're about to pray. You may either join us or be quiet." After the prayers, the patient asked Reverend Jane what church she was from. She explained that she was with the First Religious Society in Newburyport, the big white church on Pleasant Street in Newburyport. She told me that his eyes lit up and he leaned forward as much as he could and said, "That's my church." She smiled and continued and asked more, and he said, "Yes, I went to recovery meetings there every week. That's my church." This is our church, and that our is much larger than we may ever realize. We are the privileged ones who get to know it day in and day out and be responsible to ensure it continues to be here. Stephen Wolf, you can get our little ones. They're going to come back. Our campaign goal again this year is $575,000. It's a 5% increase over last year. We've had people die, people moved away, other people's life circumstances have changed. I ask you from the bottom of my heart to consider your gift and see if you might give just a little more, or maybe even for the first time. You do not have to be a member to support this church. In fact, 15% of the people who offer us gifts each year at this time are not members. Every dollar counts, and I mean that. If a financial gift is simply not possible, but you want your name among the supporters, just whisper that in my ear, and I'll make the pledge for you from my minister's discretionary fund. You belong, we all belong. Membership, as I said, is so much more than a card, and we don't have cards anyway. We can reach this goal if each of us does what we genuinely can. I know Bart and I are increasing our pledge this year, and yes, we said a number of years now, that's it, no more. We can't, we simply can't. And then yesterday as I was walking Charlotte, he called and said, "So?" Because I know when it needs to be Bart to say, let's increase it again this year, because it matters. I'm asking for your help because I can't do this alone. We need a strong and appropriately sized staff, and I need each of you. This is our church, so join me in caring for our church. We're the lucky ones, I said, who have the privilege and responsibility to care for this beautiful space and our sacred connections so that our doors may be open to everyone who seeks a welcoming and safe place, doing what we can to strengthen sacred connections in our interconnected world. Together. We'll sing a brief song, and then we'll have our giving ritual. At that time, I would just ask for those who have your pledge cards, you can come up the center aisle and go back to your pews down the side. If you've already given, which I think like 50 people have, come up anyway, and I'll still give you a hug. And even if you don't want to give, I'll give you a hug. And I'm very glad that's done for this year. Let's make it easy and let's make it fun. Thank you, everyone. Let's join together now in singing hymn number 402, "From You I Receive."
Hi, I'm Lee. I want to share with you some gestures that I think will deepen the sacred meaning of this song. So we'll just say them first. Start like this. Start with your arms out. You'll get the words real quick. From you, I receive. Let's say that. From you, I receive. To you, I give. To you, I give. Together, we share. Together, we share. And from this, we live. From this, we live. Let's say it one more time. From you, I receive. To you, I give. Together, we share. And from this, we live. And I invite you, if you wish, to turn and face each other across the center and share with each other. From you, I receive.
are made by our children, and it says, "Thank you, strengthening sacred connections in our interconnected world." You've made beautiful posters where we'll be putting people's names, and thank you all. It's so gorgeous. At this time, I would invite anyone who's ready to come forward to bring your pledge, or as I said, to get a hug and to share together in this life from which we live. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity of spirit as well as your many gifts. And just so it's on record and on our YouTube recording, I never charge for hugs. That is not how it goes. Anyone, always. Let's rise in body or spirit to close today's service and all that it holds with hymn number 1028, verses 1 and 2, Fire of Commitment. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. My friends, again, thank you for your generosity of spirit and of time and of presence and all the gifts you bring. Everyone is invited downstairs to have ice cream if you'd like to. What I'll do is wait about 5 minutes and start the conversation around the staffing in case that's something people want to hear. We won't start too late. But before we take our leave from this space, may we go lifted up. May we go knowing that we are held in a love that knows no time, no space, no body. It is a love that holds all. May we experience it, may we give it, may we receive it, and may we know we are blessed. And each and every day, may we say thank you. Go forth in peace, my friends, and return again in great joy. Amen, and blessed be.